No, I represent the North East. I do not worry about sudden discomfort in this.
Well, Andy Burnham has declared today the best day of his life as he opens the new number 10 North. He's been having a meeting with mayors up there, and we're going to speak now to one of them. Kim McGuinness, Mayor of the North East, is on the line. Good afternoon, Kim.
Good afternoon, Cathy.
Well, it was the best day of Andy Burnham's life. Was it the best day of yours?
I mean, I feel like I have to say absolutely. It was definitely the best day of my life. No, it was really good. It was really positive, and a very collaborative meeting where we had the opportunity to talk about how we actually get real change and how we change the way that the country's run. And I think that's what Andy's getting at is, this is a massive opportunity for us all, and it is a really positive move today.
But how are we going to judge then if this is more than just a PR move? What are the things that I need to look out for to know that this was substantial?
You're going to literally see the way that decisions are made changing. You're going to see the structures of government changing so that they're more focused in the regions, less focused on Whitehall and on Westminster. And so number 10 in the North itself is one of those moves, moving some of the instrument of government up to here, up to Manchester, up to the North. But it's more than that. It's about how decisions about things like transport and housing and infrastructure are made and where they're made, and therefore how quickly they're delivered. And so people should be able to see it, touch it, feel it, know that it's happening, because things will move quicker and it'll be in the interests of the people of the regions.
Well, how much money will follow this commitment? Because I suppose it depends very much, doesn't it, on Whitehall being prepared to relinquish control and give mayors the powers to raise taxes, as Angela Rayner suggested would happen this morning. Are you going to get that power? Can you tell us any more about that?
Yeah, so fiscal devolution is very much on the table. We've already talked about certain types of fiscal devolution, such as bringing in overnight visitor levies into the regions, allowing us to take that small levy from tourists visiting so that we can then spend it on things to make the place better, more appealing. But it does need to go further and faster. And I think this discussion today was about how we might start to do some of that. Not all of this is about additional money. I think there are big things like house building, like infrastructure projects, where actually cash has been allocated, decisions have been made, but the system is too slow and it's too centralised, and therefore things just don't get done in the way that people want to see them and they don't feel the change. And that's what today was about, really identifying what those blockers were, right, and having the people in the room round the table together to make the decisions to just fix it, to just get on and do it. And actually, I think having a Prime Minister who's been a mayor, that's really helpful in this situation, because he's seen it, he's felt it, he's lived it, and now we know how to unblock it.
Well, tell us in words that we can all understand. What taxes do you want to get your hands on? Give us an example of something. How far could this go?
Look, I think that this is one of the most centralised countries when it comes to tax. I've already mentioned the overnight visitor levy. I think discussions about a share of things like income tax has already been tabled by the previous Chancellor, and the new Chancellor today absolutely put his commitment right behind fiscal devolution. But the fact is, we need to be retaining more of the tax that's taken in the regions so that we are less of a centralised country, and we can use that to drive growth, to tackle some of our biggest issues. One of the things that was discussed today at length was the number of young people not in work or education or training, and how we decentralise to solve that problem.
But I'm just give me a sort of sense of how that fiscal devolution might work, because if you're levying income tax in your area and you're then spending it in your area, if at the moment there's the goose that lays the golden egg is London and the South East, isn't it? So aren't you going to end up missing out on money that currently goes from the South East up north?
And that's about how we design a system that works for everybody. And from my perspective, fiscal devolution would have to be a share of income tax taken. But the idea is that over time, that then becomes a real driver for growth and a real incentive for growth as well. So, yeah, I don't think that just handing over the income tax that's taken in any given area at any one time right now is the solution. But starting the process of fiscal devolution, we've got to start somewhere. We are the most centralised country possibly in the world, retaining the lowest level of local taxes, and the people of the regions, places where I live and I represent, which is the furthest away from London, we felt that lack of investment. I think it's really important to say that, of course, we talked about fiscal devolution today, but this was a really wide-ranging meeting about, handing power back to the regions, taking back control, making sure that people have more of a say over their own future and getting things done. We didn't spend 2 hours today talking about tax.
Did you get any pushback from the London Mayor?
That wouldn't have been the best day of anyone's life, I don't think.
Did you get any pushback from the London Mayor, who I hear was late to the meeting?
Well, I think that the trains, we did talk about infrastructure today, and I think there was a problem on the trains, which meant that a couple of people didn't get there on time. And, we've all experienced that going to London, so I totally feel for Sadiq today. But no, of course not. That there isn't pushback on this because everybody knows that we've got to change the way this country's run.
But
we have to decentralise it.
Yeah.
We can't keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting everything to just magically grow, magically get better and magically change.
Do you worry about southern discomfort, though, given the kind of, all the narrative and the number 10 North and, the idea of wealth taxes being floated that are going to hit people in the south and London harder? Do you worry about people feeling a bit like, he's opening up quite a big north-south divide here?
No, I represent the North East. I do not worry about southern discomfort in this. I
was just asking you to empathise with your southern counterparts.
Of course. And everybody has to represent the interests of their constituents. But from my point of view, if you were to go out in the street in my cities, in Newcastle and Durham and Sunderland, or out in the rural areas of Northumberland or County Durham, and you ask them, they will tell you, we have not had the investment we deserve, we've not had the attention we deserve, we've not had the infrastructure we deserve. And so for us, changing the way the country's run to direct more attention, more investment, more power to our region can only be a positive thing. And, this is not about opening up a north-south divide, Cathy. The north-south divide has been there forever. It's about closing it down, equalising this country and making it so that those cities of the north, of the Midlands, of the south west are contributing as much as London, because at the moment what we've got is London completely overheated and everybody else just not able to grow in the way that we should be able to.
Let me put to you a message we've just had in from a listener who makes a good point. Stuart says, when people talk about fiscal devolution, let's be candid about what this actually means. It's about taking money raised from taxpayers in London and the South East and spending it in the North. This may be an entirely sensible thing to do, but let's not pretend it's anything else than London and the South East being taxed to fund even greater spending in the North than has been the case for 150 years. What would you say to Stuart?
Well, I would say two things. So first of all, nobody's actually talking about levelling additional tax on people. I think it's the way that the tax is distributed and spent.
Well, no, but people are talking about wealth taxes, though, aren't they? And you know that. You know that's coming down the track in the budget.
Yeah, well, perhaps, but I'm not about to make the Chancellor's announcement for him or preempt it ahead of the budget, certainly this far ahead of the budget. But the second thing is, does he not think that's what's happening already? He's
just saying you're going to take even more from London and South East to fund the North. That's his point.
Well, I think we need to equalise the way this country's run at the moment. As I said, right across the North, you go out and people will tell you that they've not had the investment, they've not had the attention and they've not had the infrastructure that they need to thrive. And the idea is, where we need to get to is that everybody contributes just as much. All of the cities of this country are able to grow in the same way that London has been enabled to grow. I love London. I think it is the best capital city in the world, but it is now time for us to have a real focus on other parts of the country as well.
Kim, I just want to put one other message to you. You've been very patient. Thank you. Amy says, this north-south thing is very upsetting. Can't help living in South East. I grew up here. I find it really hurtful and disrespectful to hear her say she's not worried about southern discomfort. I mean, you wouldn't have a southerner saying the same thing about the north of England, would you?
Oh, you kind of are. I mean, that is what Amy's saying. And I think the fact of the matter is that, the North has not had the attention that the South East has. And I represent the North East. I make no apology for boldly representing my residents and their views.
So it's kind of just tough, really, for the South.
It's time to address the structural inequality that we've had in this country for a long time and to change the way it's run. I don't think that the people of the South will lose out, but I do think the people of the North will gain.
It's hard to see how someone gains and without any other losers. But Kim,
because we've got to grow, Cathy. We've got to grow. We've got to change the way we're doing it in order to grow.
Kim, thank you so much for coming straight out of the meeting. Really appreciate it. No, it must have been a real rush. Kim McGuinness, thank you.